This doesn't light your fireman, the pilot lights out.
This football team is coming into our place. We're standing in our way.
This is a game of the heart. Focus and finish.
Before we get into the nitty-gritty of yesterday's NFL action, I first wanted to thank Dez Bryant for his shout-out to Roto Experts during yesterday's intense Cowboys-Lions game. Don't know what I'm talking about? Perhaps you didn't notice, as it may have been overshadowed by his widely reported display of emotion on the sidelines. Now, what happens is, every time Bryant scores a touchdown, he gives a shout-out to Roto Experts with the signature X crossing of his arms as a tribute to all the people who own him in fantasy leagues across the country and our across-the-platform recommendation to start him in your league week in and week out. The fact that Bryant would take the time to recognize us on a national platform and risk being fined and whatnot is a testament to how loyal he is, something Cowboy fans see week in and week out. From all of us here at RotoX Nation, right back at you, Dez. Although I wasn't there to see it, yesterday felt a little bit like 1941 to me. In 41, Ted Williams hit .406 with 37 home runs and 120 RBI, but he did not win the MVP or get the national attention he deserved because at the same time, there was this Joe DiMaggio guy who hit in 56 straight games, stealing his thunder. Now, as a nation obsessed with fantasy football, I don't know that we will fully appreciate what Calvin Johnson did yesterday until some time passes, simply because Marvin Jones, with his 8-catch, 122 yards and 4 touchdowns, also put up 36 standard fantasy points. Now, to put things in perspective about what I mean, with Twitter on fire about the finish of the Lions-Cowboys game last night, someone actually tweeted me that they were disappointed Megatron only scored 1 touchdown on the day. Now, when I attempted to politely label the guy as shallow and a moron, he interrupted me, telling me that going to the 8 o'clock game, he was losing by 2 points to someone who had, you guessed it, Marvin Jones. Alright, so what can we take away from yesterday's on-field action? Well, last week, I attempted to make the argument that Andy Dalton had already become an upper echelon fantasy quarterback. I'm not certain that I made a compelling argument though, because going into yesterday's game, Dalton was owned in 85.4% in NFL.com leagues and just 43.5% in ESPN leagues. Putting things into perspective, in the past 3 weeks, Dalton has thrown for 1,034 yards and 11 touchdowns, accounting for 81 standard fantasy points, and is the highest scoring quarterback in the game, besting Matt Stafford by 6 points, Cam Newton by 10, and Peyton Manning by 21. It's tough finding a quarterback at this time of year if you need one. You can see how NFL teams are scrambling to find them, and it's just as hard in fantasy. Now, despite the label that he's only a game manager, Alex Smith remains a viable fantasy option for those who need a quarterback at this point in the season. He rarely turns the ball over, and the fact that the Chiefs' defense and special teams often give him a short field to work with should not be overlooked. He's 27-5-1 in the past 3 years in the NFL as a starter, and he put up his 3rd game this season of plus 20 fantasy points yesterday. He's the 6th leading rushing quarterback in the league, where running quarterbacks have become all the rage. And that's a trait that should also not be overlooked, as it can assist his weekly fantasy totals, keeping them respectable. It's also hard to find a running back this time of year if you need one, so you need to go and grab Ellington before someone else does, because they will. With Ellington's big playability, the Cardinals' offense has a totally different dynamic with him as the primary ball carrier. Expect Rashard Mendenhall to start losing touches to Ellington when his toe is healthy. Arizona can't afford not to make that adjustment. Today's Twitter question comes from @CBaldwin, who writes, Mike, you recommended playing Jordan Reed over Jimmy Graham yesterday. Would you like to take that one back? Well, look, I just didn't feel that Graham would be his usual self. And to be fair, he wasn't. He was only targeted 3 times on the day with 3 catches for 37 yards. And yes, I do realize that 2 of those were for touchdowns. But you have to look at the fact that I was specifically talking about usage in PPR leagues, and when Graham outscored Reed 15-8 in standard scoring, he only outscored Reed 18-17 in PPR scoring, with Reed having 8 catches for 90 yards on 14 targets. In hindsight, Graham outscored Reed by a point, and if that has you behind someone by a point tonight, sorry about that, did my best. But I thought I made the right call. My recommendation remains, however, Jordan Reed will be a top 5 fantasy tight end in fantasy down the stretch, regardless of your league's scoring method. And if you have a question you want answered, hit me up with a tweet. If I don't use your question on the program, I'll tweet you back with my best advice. And be sure to tune into the Roto Experts Fantasy Football News Notes and Analysis segment every weekday. I'll be here to keep you current and ahead of the competition, and on weekends, come back for This Week in Fantasy Football, as I team up with the King, Scott Engel, covering the week that was, the week that will be, answering your viewer questions. It's the Seahawks and Rams tonight. Hopefully, Kellen Clemens can put up a better fight than Josh Freeman did last Monday night, and we have a competitive game to watch. Hey, at least we don't have to watch the Vikings again in primetime. Enjoy the game, everyone. For Roto Experts, I'm Mike Cardano.